Hi, everybody. So this presentation is going to go over how to use sources to help you discuss a particular issue. And we're using an article that is about homelessness. It's one of the issues that your particular class may or may not have read about, depending on which semester you have my class in. I kind of rotate them out. So if you haven't read about this, that's okay. You can still take all of this information and apply it to whichever sources you are reading about. Okay, so first of all, when you come to a source to start reading it, it's important to make sure that you're looking at what kinds of things you hope to take away from this source. So what kind of evidence are you hoping to gather from it? How can it help support your research or your purpose? Maybe you have to write a discussion board post about this particular information. So if you go into your reading with a purpose, then you're going to get a lot more out of it. From there, you should read and annotate. So look for quality quotes that you can use later on. Make sure that the quotes that you are looking at are short and try and focus on those the most significant points in the article or the most relevant points to your purpose. And remember that anytime you can explain things on your own, you should. Quotes are only there to support those explanations and those insights that you already, are giving us about whatever topic you're discussing. Remember that for your essay or for, different discussion assignments, you're generally making an argument of some kind, and the quotes are just there to support you. Also, while you're reading, I definitely recommend that when you're gathering quotes, you also include signal phrases and MLA citations as you go. It will make your job a lot easier when it comes time to put those quotes into your discussion board posts, into your essay, wherever you're using it. It'll make it a lot easier if you already have those signal phrases and citations from your notes and your annotations. So, quote harvesting. Remember that when you're using quotes, generally, it's important to include lots of different information from various sources, right? We don't want to just go with all information from one source or with one look at a particular topic. So a lot of the time we're seeking complexity, meaning that we want different takes on this issue or we want quotes that have a different purpose depending on the assignment you're using them for. So remember that for the research essay, for example, you need to discuss the problem, big picture solutions you want to see, and some ways that individuals can get involved to help. So some things that you can look for while you're researching a particular issue, what kinds of things contribute to the problem, who's affected, where is this happening, how long has it been going on, what has been tried before that isn't working, why is it so difficult to find a solution, why should we care. These are just some of the things that you might want to discuss in the problem section of your research paper, for example. So another thing that you'll need to do with your sources, once you know sort of what you want to get from them, is to collect quotes. So this is called quote harvesting. And generally, you should do this as you're annotating, right? So as you're reading through your source, it's a good idea to harvest those quotes then. Make some notes about when you might use them, include those citations and signal phrases, and always have a purpose. And then also trim quotes of unnecessary information so they're no longer than 1 to 2 lines. And I'll give you an example of what that looks like. So this quote is from one of the articles that some of my classes are reading on homelessness. And it states, there were 306,000 people over 50 living on the streets in 2014. The most recent data available, a 20% jump since 2007, according to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. They now make up 31% of the nation's homeless population. So as you can see, that quote might be really relevant if I were talking about something like who is affected by this problem, right? Because we have some good stats here about the population that is currently homeless. However, it's a long quote. So what I can do instead of just throwing this whole thing into my paragraph is I can shorten this quite a bit. So I can sum some things up on my own. So instead of saying there were this many people over 50 living on the streets in this year, I can sum that up and just say people over 50. And then I switch to the quoted information. So people over 50 now make up 31% of the nation's homeless population. So I'm now using information from the quote, right? But I am not including this whole thing with all of that information there. So don't be afraid to cut your quotes down a little bit if there's some info that you could do without, right? And then I have the citation as well. So this is one way that you can practice with your quote harvesting. I like tables for things. As I read, I use tables quite often, but you can set this up however you'd like to. But when I'm looking for quotes to write, an article or a paper or whatever, this is what I do. So I have one column that tells the quote's purpose. I have another column where I keep the quote and the signal phrase together. And then I have the final column with my MLA citation. And I would just keep like a running list of this while I was reading. And that way, when the time comes to write about a particular topic, I can go back and look at all of my quotes and say, okay, this one makes sense to use in this particular paragraph. And I can just plug it right into that paragraph because I already have the signal phrase, the quote itself, and the citation ready to go. So for instance, this quote would help to support my claim that our homeless population is now made up of many older individuals. And then I have the signal phrase, according to the New York Times article about the older homeless population, then the quote itself, people over 50 now make up 31% of the nation's homeless population. And then I've got the citation here with the author's last name and page number. So if I keep a list like this going while I'm annotating my different articles, it's going to become really easy for me to choose quotes to plug into, my discussion board posts, my essay, and so on. Okay. So a quick recap, when you're using scholarly sources, make sure that you're reading with purpose. What are you supposed to get out of this particular reading? What sorts of information do you need? A really great way to determine your purpose is to read over the discussion board posts for the week, or if you're writing your essay, read over the prompt for the essay before you start reading those outside sources. And that way you can sort of go into your reading with a plan. Then find quotes that will work for you. So you want to find quotes that are going to help you achieve that purpose or those goals. Trim your quotes so that they're not longer than 1 or 2 lines. Cite an MLA as you go so you don't have to go look up quotes later. And then you might want to organize your quotes in a chart so that you have their purpose, the signal phrase, the quote, and an MLA citation ready to go once it is time to start writing. As always, any questions, need help, anything like that, rely on your groups, talk to our tutor, and or talk to me.